When driving at night, you should A. Always use your high beams. B. Look directly at the headlights of an oncoming vehicle. C. Increase your following distance. On a multi-lane road, a dashed yellow line next to a solid yellow line means A. Passing is prohibited from both directions. B. Passing is permitted from both directions. C. Passing is permitted only from the direction next to the dashed line. C. Passing is permitted only from the direction next to the dashed line. Where there are both solid and dashed yellow lines between lanes of traffic, only traffic directly next to the dashed line may cross the centerline to pass. Drivers next to the solid line may not pass. If you approach a flashing red traffic light, you A. Are traveling in the wrong direction. B. Must treat the intersection as if it is controlled by a stop sign. C. May not proceed until it changes to green. B. Must treat the intersection as if it is controlled by a stop sign. Treat a flashing red light the same as a stop sign. Come to a complete stop at the stop line or, if there is no stop line, prior to the crosswalk and before entering the intersection. Yield to all other traffic and pedestrians. Water on the road can cause a vehicle to hydroplane. Your car may hydroplane at speeds as low as A. 45 miles per hour. B. 35 miles per hour. C. 40 miles per hour. B. 35 miles per hour. Hydroplaning occurs when there is standing water on a roadway. At speeds up to 35 miles per hour, most tires will channel water away from the tire. As your speed increases past 35 miles per hour, tires cannot channel the water as well and your tires may start to lose contact with the road and ride over the water like a set of water skis.
Want to ace your DMV test? Click on the link below and get your guaranteed cheat sheet.
Excessive speed contributes to high numbers of A. Early arrivals. B. Congestion-free traffic lanes. C. Vehicle crashes. C. Vehicle crashes. Excessive speed contributes to high numbers of vehicle crashes. Drivers should only ever travel at speeds that are reasonable and prudent. If you find that the roadway ahead of you is flooded, you should A. Slam on the brakes. B. Not drive through the flooded area. Turn around and find another route. C. Drive only in the center of the roadway. B. Not drive through the flooded area. Turn around and find another route. Never attempt to drive on a flooded road. Even if the water looks shallow, it may hide many kinds of hazards. If you encounter a flooded area, turn around and seek another route to your destination. If you are about to be hit from the rear, you should consider each of the following, except for A. Applying your brakes. B. Letting go of the steering wheel. C. Pressing your head firmly against the head restraint. B. Letting go of the steering wheel. If your vehicle is hit from the rear while you are in forward motion, your body will be thrown backward. Press yourself against the back of your seat and put your head against the head restraint to prevent whiplash. Maintain a firm grip on the steering wheel and be ready to apply your brakes to avoid being pushed into another vehicle. When you want to change lanes, you should never A. Move into another lane while within an intersection. B. Check your blind spot by looking over your shoulder. C. Check for other drivers moving into the same lane. A. Move into another lane while within an intersection. You should never change lanes within an intersection. Before changing lanes, always look over your shoulder to check your blind spot. Be alert to other drivers moving into the same lane. To improve visibility lowered by rain or fog, drivers should use their A. Low beam headlights. B. High beam headlights. C. Parking lights. A. Low beam headlights. Use low beam headlights when driving in rain, snow, sleet, or fog. High beam headlights in adverse weather conditions lower visibility by reflecting off the precipitation and back into the driver's eyes. Distracted driving is A. Anything that causes evasive action while driving. B. Anything that takes your attention away from driving. C. Anything that causes you to pay more attention to driving. B. Anything that takes your attention away from driving. The term, distracted driving, refers to driving while anything takes your eyes, hands, or mind away from the task at hand. Distracted driving is the most common contributing factor to reported traffic collisions. Distractions of any sort cause drivers to miss key visual and audio cues needed to avoid a crash. You should not use your horn. A. When visibility ahead is limited. B. If you might hit another vehicle. C. Near blind pedestrians. C. Near blind pedestrians. When driving near a blind pedestrian, using your horn may be dangerous. Yield to the pedestrian and proceed when it is safe to do so. A driver may text while driving. A. If they have a provisional license. B. During daylight hours. C. Under no circumstances. C. Under no circumstances. In the state of Maryland, it is against the law for any driver to use a cell phone to send or read text messages while driving. Any use of handheld cell phones while driving is prohibited, unless it is to report an emergency. Defensive driving is A. Controlling a vehicle to avoid a crash. B. Driving faster than the other vehicles on the road. C. More dangerous than not driving defensively. A. Controlling a vehicle to avoid a crash. Defensive driving is controlling a vehicle as necessary to avoid any crashes. Driving defensively requires a driver to constantly manage risks while observing their surroundings. You can drive off the road to pass another vehicle. A. If the vehicle ahead is turning left. B. If there are two or more lanes traveling in your direction. C. Under no circumstances. C. Under no circumstances. You may never drive off the paved or main traveled portion of the road and onto the shoulder to pass another vehicle. A driver should A. Assume all drivers automatically obey the right-of-way rules. B. Assume most drivers obey the right-of-way rules. C. Always be prepared to yield the right-of-way. C. Always be prepared to yield the right-of-way. Although the right-of-way rules provide a guide to determine who should yield the right-of-way at an intersection, no one should assume they automatically have the right-of-way. The situation and circumstances at an intersection must always be considered. Drivers should yield their legal right-of-way if it can help prevent a collision. The impact of a crash at 60 miles per hour is equal to that of a fall off a fill in the blank building. A. 5-story. B. 8-story. C. 10-story. C. 10-story. Excessive speeding greatly increases the impact of a crash. If your car hit a solid, stationary object while traveling at 60 miles per hour, it would have the same impact as an object hitting the ground after falling from a 10-story building. It is necessary to use your low beams any time you are A. on a lighted street. B. on a freeway. C. in fog. C. in fog. Use your low beams when driving in fog, snow, rain, or mist. Light from high beams will reflect off of precipitation, causing a glare and making it even more difficult to see. Some vehicles are equipped with fog lights that should be used in addition to low beam headlights. If you approach a traffic light with a red signal and a police officer directs you to go through the intersection without stopping, you should A. stop until the light turns green. B. go through the intersection without stopping. C. come to a complete stop before proceeding. B. go through the intersection without stopping. Instructions given by police officers directing traffic always override posted traffic signals and signs. Follow the officer's instructions. This sign means A. trucks under 18,000 pounds are allowed. B. hill ahead. C. truck stop ahead. B. hill ahead. Warning signs are usually yellow with black markings. They alert you to conditions that are immediately ahead. This sign indicates that there is a steep hill ahead. Slow down and be ready to shift to a lower gear to control your speed and protect your brakes from damage. Excessive speed. A. saves time so you can get to your destination more quickly. B. helps you maneuver around obstacles. C. increases the likelihood of serious bodily injury and death. C. increases the likelihood of serious bodily injury and death. Excessive speed is one of the most common contributing factors to vehicle crashes. Excessive speed does not save time and often leads to high-risk decision-making. What should a driver do when approaching a traffic control signal that is not in operation? A. come to a full stop and yield the right-of-way before entering the intersection. B. if the intersection is clear, the driver does not need to stop. C. drive quickly through the intersection to get out of the way of other vehicles. A. come to a full stop and yield the right-of-way before entering the intersection. When traffic control signals are not working, a driver must always treat the intersection as an all-way stop and come to a complete stop, unless otherwise directed by law enforcement. The driver must then look and yield the right-of-way before entering the intersection. Which of the following substances can affect the ability to drive? A. tranquilizers, marijuana, and sedatives. B. cough syrups and cold tablets containing codeine or antihistamines. C. all of the above. C. all of the above. A number of drugs can impair your ability to drive, including depressant medications like tranquilizers and sedatives, over-the-counter cough syrups, cold tablets, and allergy medications, which may contain impairing substances like alcohol, codeine, or antihistamines, and illegal drugs. This white sign means A. The railroad crossing is controlled. Continue at your regular speed. B. Look, listen, and prepare to stop at the crossing if necessary. C. Stop at the railroad tracks and wait for a signal before crossing. B. Look, listen, and prepare to stop at the crossing if necessary. When approaching a railroad crossing, you must look, listen, slow down, and prepare to stop. Let any trains pass before you proceed. All drivers under the age of 21 have a restriction prohibiting them from A. Driving or attempting to drive while smoking. B. Driving or attempting to drive before midnight. C. Driving or attempting to drive after consuming any alcohol. C. Driving or attempting to drive after consuming any alcohol. If you are not yet 21 years of age, it is not legal for you to be drinking at all. If you are pulled over and you have been drinking, your license will be suspended or revoked. In addition, you could be charged for violating the alcohol restriction on your license. If you see a playground near the road, you should A. Drive more slowly. B. Honk your horn loudly. C. Come to a complete stop. A. Drive more slowly. A driver should consistently adjust their driving in order to operate at a speed that is reasonable and prudent at all times. If the driver is near a school, playground, or residential area, it is safest to decrease their speed and watch for children and other pedestrians near the road.